The souls of the dead do not wander throughout the universe but live in a certain place. I want you to know about this. This is the entry made by retired General Radio Engineer Evgeny Liventsov. He claimed that in the late 90s he began to receive messages from the Supreme Cosmic Mind, which told about the afterlife fate of human souls and also warned humanity against a serious mistake. Evgeny Liventsov contacted several publishers with a request to publish these messages. Some looked at the general as a madman, others as a charlatan. And yet, it was decided to publish the notes made by Evgeny Liventsov. The decisive role in this was played by facts from the life of the general. Evgeny Liventsov served in the army for 43 years. He saw the horrors of the Great Patriotic War. All his life, this man cared about the purity of his reputation and valued his good name. And messages from the alleged cosmic mind could destroy both his good name and reputation. One can only do this if one is completely sure of one's rightness. In 1985, Evgeny Liventsov retired. 2 years later, he suffered a stroke. The general fell into a coma. The doctors at the Burdenko Military Hospital, where Liventsov was, citing his age and condition, said there was no hope of saving him. However, 9 days later, the doomed patient came to his senses. The doctors were stunned because before their eyes, the man had practically risen from the dead. After Liventsov's return, all of his body's systems began to function as if he were a completely healthy person. Evgeny Liventsov told the doctors that when he was in a coma, his soul left his body and communicated with the Supreme Intelligence. This intelligence said, "On the 9th day, you will wake up and be completely healthy." The doctors were indulgent about these stories. They attributed everything to his age and the shocks he had experienced. However, the story with the Supreme Intelligence did not end there. Returning home, Evgeny Liventsov felt a strong need to sit down at the table and write something down. When he took a pen and a clean sheet of paper, his hand began to write down thoughts that, according to the general, were not born in his head. This is how the first message from the Supreme Mind was written. It said that Evgeny Liventsov was endowed with an exceptional gift, thanks to which he could communicate with the spiritual world. This communication is necessary in order to warn humanity that their unreasonable actions can lead to a cataclysm that will cause not only great destruction on Earth, but will also upset the balance of centrifugal forces in the solar system. The first message said, Evgeny Liventsov was told what the Supreme Mind is, what the soul is, and where it goes after the end of earthly life. Thus, the Supreme Mind is an energy structure that thinks, organizes, and creates. It fills the entire space of the solar system and extends beyond it. This is the structure that you should not penetrate, because it will end tragically for you, and will be the end of not only your physical life, but also your spiritual life, Evgeny Liventsov was informed. In Liventsov's notes, one can find information about the soul that a person is allowed to know. For example, before birth in earthly life, the Supreme Mind influences each human soul so that, upon entering the child's body at birth, the work of all its organs and senses is launched. Thanks to this, a person can be guided not only by instincts, but also by his feelings and mind. Coming to Earth, the soul accumulates memory, which is preserved during the transition to spiritual life. The Supreme Mind accepts the soul in the spiritual world, determining its future place of residence. The choice of place depends on the moral purity of the soul and the principles that it adhered to in earthly life. Nevertheless, in the messages received by Evgeny Liventsov, there are many descriptions of the spiritual world. They also emphasize that a person should not strive to learn more about it. What happens when the soul leaves the body after the end of earthly life? As already mentioned, first its place in the spiritual world is determined. After that, the Supreme Mind removes from it the energy double, which stores all human memory from birth to death. This double is sent for eternal storage in the field of memory. At the same time, the soul itself is not deprived of earthly memory, it is also stored in it. The spiritual world has clear boundaries. Souls reside in a certain place. We can say that they have their own planet. Those souls that have committed many evil deeds in earthly life live in a separate place. It is called the orbit of souls. The orbit of souls is located near the Earth and moves along the same trajectory as the Moon. Here, the soul is in constant repentance, reliving all its earthly crimes. In extremely rare cases, the inhabitants of the orbit are scattered throughout outer space. Once dispersed, the soul cannot be reborn, wrote Evgeny Liventsov. Those souls that the Supreme Mind recognizes as morally pure are sent to another place. It is called the abode of souls and resembles an elongated cylinder, the diameter of which is equal to the diameter of the Earth's satellite. While here, the soul is gradually liberated from those unworthy deeds that were committed during its earthly existence. I am communicating all this only with the purpose of making humanity realize that if it stops chasing material wealth and makes work a necessary part of its life, then this will not only prolong and improve your earthly life, but also create better conditions for life in the spiritual world. Explains in the notes of Evgeny Liventsov. The Supreme Mind also reported that if a person neglects these rules, earthly life will become suffering for him. More than one attempt has been made to change this destructive order on the planet, in which material goods become the goal of human existence, up to the liquidation of entire civilizations. But the old order is highly resilient and is revived again. The messages received by Evgeny Liventsov describe situations that can convince a person of the existence of spiritual life even during his earthly life. Each of us has a thinking double in our earthly life. It knows everything about the person whose double it is. The double is created by the Supreme Mind in order to warn a person about those moments that can lead to his death. The phenomena that we call intuition and foresight are associated with the thinking double. We often call these warnings our inner voice, which tells us, don't go, don't go, don't do. Another confirmation of the existence of spiritual life is the information that we call enlightenment. It does not come from the energy double. The messages received by Liventsov state that the source of enlightenment is of a cosmic nature. A person perceives it as a thought that has come to mind. Often, people make discoveries and create works based on this information. Enlightenment can happen to anyone. But there are people who can constantly contact the spiritual world. They are called clairvoyants. These people realize that they can help others. By helping people, a clairvoyant gradually squanders his potential, which, as a rule, leads to a serious illness of this person.